As coronavirus is witnessing a huge surge across the country, there are worries not only on account of lives but also livelihood. The surge in coronavirus is leading to restrictions and lockdowns across cities and towns. This is definitely going to again hit the country's economy, which was showing signs of recovery after severe damage suffered due to lockdown last year. So, what is the impact expected on the country's economy and you and me? We will try to understand with experts in the agenda today. We have with us Abhishek Rajaram and Professor Aman Agarwal. But before we begin our conversation, have a look at this small report.
Just a few weeks back, the International Monetary Fund had said that India would witness a growth of 12.5% in the current financial year. The RBI had said the growth is expected to be to the tune of 10.5%. However, over these weeks, coronavirus has reported a huge surge. Cases are rising fast, prompting authorities to impose restrictions and even lockdowns at state level or local level. The COVID situation worsening, there are apprehension that stricter restrictions would be imposed across the country. These restrictions are surely going to hit the economic activity and thus the growth. However, Chief Economic Advisor K.V. Subramaniam says the Indian economy is in a better shape as compared to the previous COVID-19 wave witnessed last year because of vaccines. He says uncertainty is much lower this time, but people should be cautious. After the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic last year, India went in for a strict lockdown from March 24, leading to a massive contraction of 23.9% in GDP. Subramaniam said one key thing that stood out during this pandemic is the rollout of e-commerce and digitization, something that India has embraced. He also suggested that MSMEs should embrace technology and invest in innovation for growth of their businesses. While the Chief Economic Advisor has sought to paint a positive picture, anxiety continues on the economic front, besides, of course, the health front. So clearly the coming days and weeks are going to be difficult. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, economic experts Abhishek Rajaram and Professor Agarwal. Welcome to both of you to the program, sir. So let me begin by going to Abhishek Rajaram ji about the surge which we are witnessing in coronavirus and which is again leading to restrictions and weekly lockdown, other lockdowns. So how much do you expect economy to be hit by this?
So there is a basic difference between that we had first coronavirus threat last year and this year. This year we have vaccination available. And also we have some sort of experience with last year. We have much more experience. So last year we had massive impact on, initially, a massive impact on supply, distribution chain impact. This would not be the case. Second thing, we have become more or less habitual of staying at home, or we have developed the tendency to work from home. We have accepted it. This is a new normal, we have accepted it. But when we come to focus of the government, the biggest dilemma before the government will be whether they have to focus on life or livelihood, as you have said. If they come with restrictions, a hard restrictions like last year, a full lockdown, then there will be many MSMEs which would never be able to open their businesses. There would be total shutdown. So this has to be taken care. But the government has ignored certain things, which is a big mistake on their part. First, the election rallies, and second, some sort of religious gathering. This has impacted, and this could be one more reason for surging corona numbers. Though we cannot link it like one-to-one cannot be linked, but definitely there would be an impact. Again, the budget has projected on 1st of February, the budget has projected 14.4% growth rate. IMF said 12.5 and RBI MPC said 10.5 growth. last year for June quarter, we have minus 24.4% negative growth.
23.9.
This year, pardon?
23.9 minus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was later corrected to 24.4.
Okay.
Now, in this year, if total lockdown also comes, then it would never be in 2 digits, because we have shifted our working some sort of, we are habitual from working from home. So, impact of lockdown would not be as severe, as hard as we had in 2020.
Okay, so it won't
we
be,
have become more
yeah.
habitual to corona.
So we have become habituated. So Professor Agarwal, I come to you. So I could read that what Abhishek Rajaram was talking on the same lines as our chief economic advisor yesterday also said, that we have now become habitual and we are maybe more readier rather than last year. So what is your view on this?
You see, as far as the GDP impact is expected, we may have an impact of anywhere between 1.5% to about 5%, depending on the duration of the lockdown. If it is only lockdowns which are like evenings, midnights, and weekends, then we may have it on a lower bound of GDP, which I've said. But however, if we have longer lockdowns like we had before, spanning to about a month, 2 months, or 3 months, then there could be an impact of to the tune of 5% as well. As of now, the condition does not show as to what is the level or the periodicity which is expected of lockdown which may take place going ahead. So it is not very clear. Certainly, as I said in one of your programs before, the world, not only India, largely, and specifically when we talk of India, the industry, the individuals, the institutions, large number of them are better prepared now as against what we were prepared in March 2020. So naturally the impact what we had felt last year is not something which we are looking at or witnessing this year. As I also said before, there are two other components. Large number of industries which are expected to vanish or disappear at the count of lockdowns or NPAs getting created or losses being accrued in their balance sheets. There are going to be some other industries which have actually been seeing losses for decades, now surfacing up and actually making profitability. So as a net result, there would be a downfall still, but it will not be that major as it was seen last year from March to July 2020.
Right.
So this is something which is there in terms of GDP numbers. I agree with my colleague here. They are severe concerns and severe impacts which could be there. However, I do not agree with the chief economic advisor's statement of getting used to that kind of a scenario. I think it is a very myopic and a very uncalled for statement where he says that we are used to. I think we are still evolving and no one wants to get used to a negativity in life. Always everyone wants to get used to positivity in life. And I think that is something which is still holding India for over 5,000 years, showing prosperity decade after decade.
Right. Apparently, the CAA wanted to present maybe a positive picture, and he also talked about the uncertainty is less, Professor Agarwal. So, what could it mean, uncertainty is less?
You see, as I said, uncertainties are the fact that, whether the lockdown is going to be only contained to evenings, late nights, or only for the weekends, or you could have longer lockdowns.
I think he was talking about uncertainty for economy.
Yes, that is where the uncertainty will come in. Because you see, depending on those lockdowns which are there and the numbers which we are seeing of wanting to get vaccinated or people who are going into the corona pandemic scenario will create that economic impact. Because ultimately the factor production will not be there. Both labor, capital, land would not be at use. And as a result, we could see a disaster in accordance to the kind of lockdowns which we may see, which may get enforced.
Right.
And that is where the uncertainties are coming forth from. As far as the international flows of trades are concerned, a large amount of them have already been toppled except for the necessary goods and services, which is still under trade and going on despite corona or COVID.
Right. Mr. Rajaram, I come to you. When we talk about uncertainty, so if there is maybe a change this time in the authority or in the government also, like last year, as we were unprepared, there was an immediate lockdown. So this year, I mean, there is a calculated lockdown, I'll say, or the restrictions are like in a calculated and manner being imposed. So is that going to do well for the economy, because last year the sudden lockdown hit it badly. Is that the comparison?
Of course, the surprise element is less now. Last year we were all taken by off guard. We didn't know what could be the scenario, how it could be. But in last 1 year we have understood how we have to work from home, and many of the industries have shifted to cloud technology. It's not that we don't know how to do small work also, and most of the offices are yet to open. They are working with lesser forces. Some people are still working from home. So,
but Mr. Rajaram, it's a good thing to say that work from home is better. So, but work from home also has its downfalls, isn't it? And work from home doesn't apply for everyone. So, if you work from home, you are giving out rental premises, you are giving up, or maybe you are some other places. Who are people who are working at your office, they become jobless.
No,
it has downfalls. Yeah.
We have discussed this in last year,
right.
When I was in India with you.
Right.
We have discussed it. So rental is a big problem.
Yes.
Also, the fourth class people, a pantry boy. So
right.
if you are running an office, you would be paying to a pantry boy. You would be paying to a driver. So
and every sector cannot work from home.
Yes, every sector cannot work. Come on, definitely. But again, we have become more intelligent. We have taken some sort of measures. So the impact of economy would not be, say, 20% if lockdown comes.
Right.
That would be 5-7%. Even that would not go to the extent of 10%. That is my opinion.
Right.
Now, the problem in this is whole scenario. The basic problem, what I feel is, on 12th of May 2020, Honorable Prime Minister has announced Atmanirbhar Bharat package that is yet to take off. So they said that they will provide economic credit line on the whatever is your outstanding on 28th of February 2020. Now we have got third extension for the same. So MSMEs are still struggling for cash flows. They are yet to get money. And if a lockdown comes and without money, they will never be able to open their offices. That is the biggest trouble. So you would be effectively, this corona would be wiping out or killing whole of the MSME sector or a majority of the MSME sector. That's my biggest worry. Second, on the compliance part, I have serious issues with the compliance part of this government. What they did, they provided staggered due date. And if you miss the staggered due date, then the interest and penalty was levied from the very first day of the due date. This was totally incorrect, unwanted, and the penalties today are running more than the total amount of the tax which has been due. This is the basic challenge, and we have been listening from the very first day. This virus is Chinese, and many of the companies want to come out of China, and we have sent red carpet.
Right.
And Prime Minister Modi ji has been going to all of the world.
Mr. Rajaram,
where is the country?
Yeah, I'll come to you that about compliance. We were discussing about the impact that corona surge and restrictions and lockdowns could have on the economy, which was showing recovery after last year's bad hit. So we have Mr. Rajaram and Professor Agarwal with us. So I'll go to Professor Agarwal, as we talked about, as you heard just about work from home. And yesterday CA also was saying that digitization and e-commerce has become the new thing, and it is, as if everything is fine with that. But if you talk about e-commerce, there are traditional retailers who are in crores and crores who are affected and by lockdowns, restriction, and as Mr. Rajaram also pointed out, referred to MSME sectors, MSME sector, and there is also unorganized sector. What about those, Professor Agarwal?
Yes, you're correct on one point that, when digitalization framework comes in, when large number of labor-intensive activities which actually get transformed to digital frameworks do get an impact in the short run. This was the same scenario when computers came in,
right,
and banks revolted way back in the mid-1990s, saying that we should not have computerization. Now, if that would not be there, I think the way television channels progress and show news with guests from all over the world would not have been possible. Now, that is something which we have to take a call on, whether we want that kind of an efficiency.
No, I'm not discounting the advantages.
No,
I'm talking about a downfall.
Let me just complete. You see, I worked in the United States, I worked in London as well. You see, large number of people don't do those kind of labor intensive. It's not that there is not labor, there are not people there. They do those labor jobs. So there is a reallocation which was coming to us, that when this thing came up in the banks also, so they thought that the bank employees would get relieved and they would have to lose jobs. But it was not the case. Number of branches increased. With even digital frameworks, number of branches increased. More hiring will take place. So what I'm trying to put up here is that there will be an enhancement of skill which will be required by a certain number of people, and they will diversify and move to different sectors when it comes to employment. Certainly, as my colleague said, the same person who is actually serving you water and tea and coffee may not come into picture, and there may be vending machines in everybody's offices or at home. So that job certainly may discontinue. But then he would upgrade himself or do a skill development program as the government has launched, or do other things and move into the other spheres where his skill would be utilized and could be there. So saying that it will be completely shackling. And secondly, not all operations around the country. You see, in India, it's not like United States or China, which is scattered on 2 zones of the whole country. Here, India is scattered throughout the country, and we have only very small pockets of metro cities or second-tier metro cities where these kind of impacts are there. In a smaller town, these kind of impacts would not be there, and as a result, we would still see those kind of employment continue to be going on as which we are seeing here. So there would be some reallocation, there would be some kind of an hit, but to think that it will be completely devastating as has been projected by various people in the last 1 year would not be the case.
Yeah, okay. So, where we're talking about MSME sectors, as Mr. Rajaram talked about, he is expressed concern. I will also talk about unorganized sector, which nobody takes care of. I don't think there is even data about unorganized sector. How many people are affected? We don't know, isn't it, Professor Agarwal?
No, I agree with you. The unorganized sector contributes extensively to the growth of the economy, and the substantial amount of labor-intensive structures which are there in the unorganized sector is actually, various estimates estimating almost 60% of the total employment throughout the country or more actually comes from the unorganized sector. But to say again, you see, like construction has large number of mechanized mechanisms, but even then we have labor-intensive construction which goes on. And recently also when this the train, super fast train, it came in the newspaper today, we're supposed to be built between Gujarat and Mumbai. The head of the organization has said clearly that we will see how the work continues going on, keeping in mind the COVID restrictions and the COVID security which we need to have within employees, which needs to be there. So it is not that we are going to see the unorganized sector completely disorient, but yes, there are going to be shifts, specifically as I said, in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, where a large number of construction workers or day labor workers move in from smaller towns and who are going to see a major heat of the lockdown framework which is there. But as I said, this is temporary and it's a question of reorientation of skills which is expected to take place. And the nature of skills, even for the MSME as a matter of fact, I have a large number of friends who have been in MSME, who have been doing different kinds of businesses, and they now move to a newer business because MSME has this feature of being able to shift from one kind of a business to the other as against large corporations, which have invested heavily in capital investment into infrastructure, building up machineries, plants and machineries and so on and so forth. Whereas MSMEs do not, to a great extent, have the smaller or the medium size, which are majorly going to be hit by the lockdown, do not have that kind of investment. As a result, they are able to shift from one business, like the perfume making industry moved to chemical or the sanitizer based industry. Mask making units have come up. The disinfectant structures, which is producing disinfectants for cleaning houses, other things which have come into place. Now, there are newer things which are coming in nature, right, where MSMEs have actually started moving in and trying to reap in the profitability which they can get. Larger number of them have even started now becoming trading organizations instead of producing, already procuring some of these equipment and issues and things and then supplying to wherever the requirements are coming up. So there is that change in business which is taking place given the situations we are in for the last 1 year.
Right. So, Mr. Rajaram, you heard Professor Agarwal talk about reskilling and reorientation, and you are talking about compliance also. So, how do you, see these views?
First of all, as Professor Agarwal has said, that they have, and then for perfume making industry, they have moved towards say hand sanitizers and these kind of things. And government has made huge money on this. It has charged at 18%. Even after saying so many things, the government is not ready to reduce this rate. Government is not ready to extend GST rates vis-a-vis GST or any kind of statutory due dates, though we have lockdowns, night curfews. People can't work sitting late. But election timings are on. Religious gatherings are there. Is there any change in behavior pattern of the government? Is this a sensitive government? The question is, what kind of governance we are getting? They came with the slogan, minimum government, maximum government. If you remember, 2013, 14, this was slogan. The problem is we don't see governance. We don't see government. There it is. Common person, common man has become a wall between state government and the central government. They are being pushing who is responsible for this stuff. If after 1 year there are no beds available in the hospital, there are no places available in the cremation ground, then who is responsible? Think of it, we are yet to reduce GST rates on masks.
I think the government, but I think government excuse is that GST gives them revenue. Government also needs revenues to run programs.
So make it 21 lakh crore package. Please provide discounts. What kind of, from whom you will collect revenue? Okay, one time you will collect revenue, and if a person dies, then from where you will get the revenue? You want to get all the eggs from one day?
Okay.
And where are our finance ministers busy? Where are our health ministers who are busy? Where are prime ministers and home ministers are busy? You see very visual.
Yeah.
I need not to talk about it.
Yeah. So we had to conclude, and I want to ask one last question to Professor Agarwal. If we talk about the RBI press conference just a few weeks back, in fact, the start of this month, and the RBI governor had talked about uncertainty. In fact, at that time there was no surge like this, but he had already talked about uncertainty about this 10.5% growth which RBI predicted. Brief comments on that. So, is that uncertainty has increased?
So I think 12.5%, whereas India was presenting an 10.5%, where RBI was projecting. I even told you at that time it was conservative in nature. The reason it was conservative was seeing.
But things have changed since then. Things have changed.
This kind of uncertainty which was there. As I said, this uncertainty of whether we will have another round of lockdowns or we will have another round of restrictions. What will be the stage of vaccinations? Like even the vaccination doses are being in a critical phase where they are not available. Whether we will be able to continue the vaccination drive going forward. Recently, we again opened up to overseas vaccinations, which was being restricted great extensively till recently. Now, that clearly shows that we are now opening up and changing. There is an adaptation which the government of India is moving on to, although on a slow pace, as my colleague put up, and I think they need to robustly make it up. The Atmanirbhar program, even the health care program which Modi, which is also commonly known as Modi Care, which was initiated, should have actually created these facilities or interlocked smaller and major hospitals.
I think
Now, given that framework,
I think our time is over. Professor Agarwal, we have to stop here. So I wish we could have much more time to discuss very serious issue, but unfortunately the time is limited. But I am sure that the government needs to do much more. But thank you both of you for participating in this debate today. This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I will be back with another important topic on Monday. Till then, goodbye.